lots of people here. I'm gonna get started. It's 2:31 p.m. We're gonna call this meeting to order. Yay. My brain is partially fried. I apologize. It's been a long week. But here we are. It is the 12th of April, and this is the AMATS Technical Advisory Committee. I'm going to do roll call. Ms. Becker? Here. Mr. Lindebu?
Present.
Mr. Hassan? Here. Ms. Buck? Present. Mr. Van Ho?
Present.
Ms. Wong? Here. Ms. Walsh? Here. I'm also here, so we do have quorum.
Craig, can you do our announcement, please?
That all AMATS meetings are open to the public. The public is invited to come. If they have a business item, we'll have presentations by staff or consultant. The committee will then be given a chance to discuss it, and then after that, the public will be invited to comment.
Thank you. Okay, first item is approval of the agenda.
Move to approve. Second.
Moved by Mr. Lindewood, seconded by Mr. Van Ho. Anybody have any objections? Hearing none, the agenda is approved. We have two different sets of meeting minutes before us. The first are from February 8th. Looks like it's a long time ago already. Yeah, Mr. Spoke is here for that. Great. Do I have a motion?
For the first one,
Yes.
move to approve the minutes of February
Second.
February 8th ones are approved. So next are the March 8th.
8th. I have a correction, just now noticed. It looks like I got a promotion in Public Transportation Department.
I'll explain why they're on
I understand why we need to approve. Perhaps that could be.
Perhaps you missed a meeting while you're on vacation.
Coming back to the campus.
There you go. That probably could be corrected before you go.
So move to approve March 8th meetings with changes.
The move by Mr. Van Ho. Do we have a second? Second. Second by Ms. Becker. I'm going to assume the changes you mean are the ones identified by Ms. Walsh.
Correct.
Are there any opposed? No, here we go. All right, March 18th minutes are also approved. All right. We have one business item today, and it's quite hefty. So, action item 5A is the public review draft of the Spinard corridor plan.
That'd be me. I have a,
Please introduce yourself to the record.
yes, hello. Keith Tobler's Long Range Planning Division with Municipality. I have a slideshow that will help, I think. So if you want to maybe switch around. And, can you still see the screen? Is that dark?
I'll get the light.
We can have the light up here.
Yeah.
Juries.
I won't go.
I was
Okay.
going to say, yeah, let the record show that Mr. Edmondson has joined us on behalf of Mr. Young, 236.
I took the scenic route.
I saw you at City Hall.
So hopefully all of you have at least have a copy of the document. I've heard several references to its heft. I won't take offense. It's important. I'm here to give you a brief overview of the Spinard Corridor Plan and request your approval to release it as a public review draft for public input. Back in 2010 to 2012, the West Anchorage District Plan from the department was the first to really identify the importance and uniqueness of the Spinard commercial corridor and the need to do a planning document that tied transportation elements with land use and development growth guidelines. So one of the major implementation actions of the West Anchorage District Plan was to do a Spinard corridor plan, which AMATS has funded back in 2016, and we've been working on for almost 2 years now. So this is the first cut, the first rough draft. It's been produced by our nationally renowned planning team that includes Winter and Company from Colorado, Alta Design, Business Advisors that does marketing and modeling. We had KPB Architects and CRW Engineers and Kittleson Associates. So we had quite a very expansive team. Also included Brooks and Company with public input. So the corridor plan is first and foremost a transportation document. It's been referred to as a transit-oriented plan, which focuses on building and transportation elements design, focuses movement of people on whatever you have in the town. In this case, it's a multimodal format, not just transit. A lot of transit corridor plans in the country focus on light rail, which of course we don't have. So we're sort of starting from scratch and making it a very basic plan. What happened?
Broke it.
It's like the projector. Wait, let's see.
Hit numbers.
Huh? Sorry. It's got one red light and one green light.
It's in pause mode, I don't know.
Break it
Should
by
we
it.
power it off and back on?
Did you try pointing it right at the that?
Yeah.
How it used to be.
Yeah, I know. It's like a hand grenade. Yeah. I'm sorry.
It's all right, it's not your fault.
If you have other business, maybe you can do that and I can try to restart it.
We don't have, well, we have informational items.
Okay.
Ball rolling.
Well,
Hook you up.
I can wing it, but I need to go through my notes. So, I'd like to start by recapping the process to date, and I had a great slide that showed you that visually. We had 11 total tasks in the project. We're at task 7, which is the public review draft. We started with the, front-ended with quite a bit of public and community engagement to establish a plan, vision, and framework to the plan. We last came to you in, I think it was earlier this fall 17, for your permission to release the concept plan draft, which was the front
Coming
start.
back.
Pardon?
You're coming back.
It's trying.
Yeah,
You
keep
got
green
two
light
green
for a little
lights.
bit. You just gotta hold it. That this time.
Oh.
Here you go. Give it a second. Let me breathe in.
So we are now at task 7, and I'm requesting your approval for the release of the public hearing draft. We plan to do at least one more draft of the document after the public review process for this version. There we go. Thank you, Craig. You're good. So there's a visual for that. We're at step 7. And we last came to you at step 5. This goes through it's a comprehensive plan element, so it will go to the Planning and Zoning Commission and the Assembly before it goes to the Policy Committee for final adoption. So here's just a general overview in general terms of the project's objectives. I won't read them for you, but they're generalized here. And the take home here is that this is a transportation plan meant to tie all transportation elements, all multimodal elements, with land use and growth, development growth. It's the first such plan for Anchorage, and we hope it to be a model for other commercial corridors once we get through. So there's a bit of a learning curve. 7 chapters in the document and 2 appendices. The appendices have quite a bit of technical detail that we decided to keep out of the main document. The main document is graphics heavy, a lot of maps and illustrative photographs, which I think help quite a bit. Chapter 1's basic introduction highlights the community process. The plan area is perhaps larger than we first started with, but we realized that a lot of what goes on in the outer edges of this boundary directly or indirectly interact with Spinard Road corridor. As a transit-oriented plan, the corridor is the central point, the road, Spinard Road is the central point, and the main policies and recommendations for the document encompass an area that's roughly a quarter of a mile to a half mile on each side of the Spinard Road center line. Chapter 2 is a vision. Everybody has a vision chapter in their plans. I think the graphic on the right is very interesting. It shows a new perspective that the planning team brought from the lower 48 to here, giving you some new ideas and new ways of thinking about Spinard, which I think is good. That it's a downtown alternative, for instance. It's clearly a growing business destination. Obviously, there's still a lot of residents. We hope to bring a lot more residents. So these are all important elements as a foundation for the plan as we move forward in the document. Chapter 3 is the plan concept or framework. It pretty much is what you saw back in September, whenever it was last fall. It's providing general guidance for what comes forward in the specifics of the document, and it's just a part of the iterative process. This graphic here is kind of wild, but it also gives a unique perspective of Spinard relative to the region and how the region interacts both to Spinard and through Spinard to other parts of town. And this is what the planning team started with, coming up with a lot of specific recommendations for, especially for the transportation element. Some more graphics from chapter 3. This map is mostly showing you the main planning area. I talked about 1/2 quarter mile distance from the road. Here's a map showing the general, I think this is the future bike network, the pedestrian network idea. Introduces some new concepts here. I can't read them, I'm sorry, but it talks about, adds transit hub here. So the planning team envisions in a 30-year, I meant to tell you that the vision is a 30-year vision, by the way. But in 30 years, perhaps there will be enough transit use and pedestrian use and residents to support actual transit hubs in roughly these 3 areas. Some districts, chapter 4 and chapter 5 are the meat of the plan, the main recommendations, the main details, the main action items. Chapter 4 presents district-specific concepts for all of these items. Some of these have never been treated before in local plan, like transitions, redevelopment opportunities, place-making opportunities. So they're all focused on transit-oriented development guidelines and design. One unique feature that they came up with is along with the community vision, we came up with 3 sub-districts within the corridor. So the north end is the orange, central district is the yellow, and then the purple is the south district. And roughly, they're broken down by usage and residents. The north district is more of the regional shopping area. It's part of the town center from the 2040 land use plan and the 2020 comp plan. It's where much of the community from outside Spinard goes and spends time. The central district is more of a meshing of local businesses, local retail, and car-oriented development. There's quite a bit of turnover still in this area, not a lot of anchored development, and not a lot of local residents. The South District is a more stable residential community surrounding quite an active hotel district, especially seasonal hotel district, with some quite unique features compared to the rest of the district. So here's an example of a dialed in, more detailed picture of the North District. and what the plan is recommending for land use and all of these features in the legend. And it again includes a lot of new features we've never seen in plans before, like plazas and open space here, mostly pedestrian-oriented type plazas, because there's no room to build new parks or to buy land for open space, and the area is lacking in public open space. Their solution was to identify possible smaller pedestrian-oriented plazas like this. This is a very interesting map. It's quite busy, but it shows you. It also talks about transitions in green here. Transitions between land use types and how those are to be treated, and it goes into detail later in the plan. And of course, the transportation element. The picture on the right is a sort of a cartoon version of the planning team's concepts of what the area would look like in 30 years, based on the concepts of the plan and the recommendations. So some of these darker shaded are new buildings designed to meet the standards presented in the plan, and the rest of it is current existing buildings. Quite a bit of detail, and you need to look at it close up to see, but it's a great concept approach to visualizing for the reader what it might look like.
So, going back to that slide you just did, so that looks like the Northern Lights Mall and cutting it up into different things?
Yeah, this is quite wild here,
Yeah.
right here. I'm sure we're going to get a lot of comment from all sides here, but they're basically envisioning in 30 years where REI is here, being essentially infilled with new development and more pedestrian orientation across the street, building on what's been put there now with the new road corridor.
But you left the buckaroo alone.
Yeah, quite a few things for sale. So here's another picture from the South District, showing the generalized land use and all the other elements, and then the concept build-out ideas on the right. One thing of note here on the right is, down in here, off the flank of the hotel district, is currently a mix of commercial, industrial with residential adjacent, and they're calling it to be redeveloped more of a mixed-use district. So chapter 5 is arguably the most important. It's circulation chapter. It's all the transportation elements thrown in. It begins with a list of overarching principles on how the transportation network is supposed to be developed. It includes quite a few design typologies for all of the different road types in the district, in the study area. They're only offered as sort of conceptual possibilities, mostly variations on themes between local roads and the arterials. But they were produced by Alta. I think they're quite good, and it gives the municipality a lot of thought for consideration for future development. And again, most of these transportation designs enhance the land use and pedestrian circulation. Chapter 5 has some more information here. This is design possibilities for future middle section of Spenard Road in the Central District, offering some possible design. It's very clear in the plan that the intent is to move forward and evolve the middle section of Spenard Road to follow what was done on the north end. So that's what's the immediate marching orders. And this map on the right is the pedestrian, I think it's a future pedestrian map. Just another example. Chapter 5 is very heavy with graphics and will take a while to get through. Chapter 6 is fairly brief, but it goes into detail on utility infrastructure needs for the future development based on the plan. And the key thing here is it identifies areas that are currently deficient to meet the future development needs based on the plan's recommendations. Chapter 7 is the heart of the plan. It's the implementation, it's the directory for the departments to take. It goes into quite a bit of interesting detail in the first few pages of this chapter 7 describing economic situation, some of the problems and shortfall of the development currently hitting Anchorage for development. It makes an assumption here. There's limited market demand for the mixed uses that are shown in the plan and recommended right now, and there's extremely high construction costs. Basically, market feasibility and financial feasibility are going to drive the growth of this plan, and it may take 30 years to get there. And another big assumption here, recognizing that vertical mixed uses in the same building is currently a big challenge in Anchorage, but yet most of our plans are recommending it. I won't read through the strategies. They're listed in a table at the back of that chapter 7, but these are the key elements guiding the strategies. The strategies have time frames assigned to them, and I think the strategy table should be a key focus point for you, for your review. And then Appendix A and B are much more technical oriented. Appendix A is a very healthy set of design guidelines for buildings, parking lots, transitions on the street to make it work. These are brought in from lower 48 success stories on transit-oriented development guidelines that allow pedestrian circulation to get to buses, to get to pedestrian network, and to get cars through as well. So there's quite a bit of detail there. I'm not sure how we're going to handle those finally as appendix or incorporate them in the document. So we'd like to hear from you on that. Then Appendix B is guidelines for all the pedestrian elements of the document. Again, focusing on success stories from the lower 48 from transit studies, transit-oriented studies. Where we are in the process, our next steps, once you'll allow us to release the document for public review, we've got an open house plan in Spenard in early May, probably another advisory committee meeting that same week. We will then, after the review period, incorporate comments as best we can into a new public hearing draft, which will then go out for standard municipal approval process to Planning and Zoning Commission, the Assembly, and the Policy Committee. And that's it.
Just one quick initial feedback comment.
Yeah.
All the pictures, I finally got to page 142, where it talks about employing winter design principles. But otherwise, all the photographs and everything, there's not a drop of snow in any of them.
Yeah, we noticed that too, Sharon, and it's an issue for us. And it was frustrating because Winter and Company does northern city planning all over the country. So we have to reconcile that. But yeah, thank you for that.
Jumped right out.
Yeah.
It doesn't snow in Spenard.
I brought the comment up related to the MTP as well. So,
Yeah.
that we have
I
all
don't have a
the
good
pictures
answer.
of it.
But you're right.
Are you finished with the project?
Yes.
Are there any other questions for feed specifically?
There's snow on page 32.
Take it outside before it melts.
I feel particularly qualified to comment because if I showed you my birth certificate, it would say that it would give my address as the town of Spenard, Alaska, in the territory of Alaska. And I don't see the Spenard kitty drop on here anywhere, but I spent many hours at that place. Very dropped on my head.
Are there any questions or comments from the committee before I open it to public comment? Yes, Mr. Randall.
I'd just like to mention for the good people here that, you noticed early on that he stated that there was an interaction with the stakeholders group. And I just want to say, I just started reviewing this, and there's been almost zero interaction with the Department of Transportation and development of this plan. And, we have some pretty significant pieces of infrastructure in that corridor. And some of the recommendations and changes that they're proposing in here, regardless of where this plan goes, it would have been nice to have an option to comment on how the plan is implemented.
I'd like to second that. Likewise, there's stuff drawn all over our infrastructure on this and haven't been discussed. And it even discusses in there about trying to figure out where feasible. Well, we probably need to figure out where feasible is before we plan.
I have a question, I guess, regarding the process. I went and talked to Craig yesterday a little bit about this, and every plan is a little bit different, whether neighborhood plans, district plans, and I was wondering the process, because my question was, had this been brought forth for agency review yet? And I asked Dave Whitfield today, and it sounds like the agency review is going to be happening concurrently with the public review. It sounds like agency review is going to happen starting next week. And I echo your concerns. My concerns are, this has now been posted on the website. This is public knowledge because the TAC is a public meeting, that if there are things in here that are concerns for any of the, whether it's street maintenance, whether it's the fire department, whether it's traffic, some of the things that are proposed, it's now been put forth in front of the public. So now I feel like there may be some things that we backtrack on that we're gonna have to explain. So that just worries me, I guess, as.
Well, to your point,
Yeah.
though, it's not technically open for public comment. That's been announced for public comment. Obviously,
Yes.
there are going to be individuals who have an interest in transportation issues that are going to get on there and find it.
Yes.
But we're going to get a whole different group of people that find it once it's announced for public comment. And my concern is that if we've got impasses with agency situations, there's going to be an expectation by the public that, whatever's in the plan happens. And I think it would probably behoove all of us to try to get those things worked out amongst ourselves rather than dragging 360,000 of our closest friends into the discussion.
Yes.
And from that standpoint, I'm going to frankly recommend that it get pulled back and get stuff coordinated with the agencies before it goes to public comment, unless there's some sort of compelling reason that it needs to be fast-tracked.
Any other questions or comments from the committee before I open for public comment?
Well, I'd like to know where the consultant contract is. Is there still time within their contract to allow this body to have maybe 2 weeks with the document, provide this level of review before it's released to the public?
Yes, there's time. The contract right now ends the last day of June. We're talking about trying to extend that. We don't have to have the contractor on board at this point necessarily. If there needs to be more time, the staff can take over for that. I just wanted to note that one of the reasons we've come forward, which seems quickly, is that we wanted to take advantage of the rest of the spring when the community councils and the public is generally still involved, rather than wait till August or September to sort of restart with a hiatus. So that's part of our efforts.
I know there's a big push, though, municipal, well, I shouldn't just say municipal-wide, to try to encourage a lot of the community councils to continue to meet over the summertime, because the difficulty has been that once it hits May, there really isn't a public engagement, but then when we have projects like the MPP, that we have to move certain things forward in a timely manner, that if they're not meeting what level of expectation, and it's 2 parts. We have to engage with them and provide them the information, but they also need to re-engage in return, and if they're not meeting, that's, they're not holding up their end.
So is there any precedent for releasing something like this for public comment with a big fat front page that says concurrent, agencies, different transportation agencies and whatnot are also reviewing this time, and there may be, significant changes based on the result of that? We ever done that?
Question the value in that, because why am I going to read something that may be substantially different by the time the agencies are going to be done?
Every time we embark on a plan of this nature, that happens. There's always significant adjustments,
Right.
especially when we begin with a public review draft, which is essentially a technical draft. And it's the initial starting point where we want all those comments to come out and have it as a public process.
Just like you said, this is the public review draft. There will also be the public hearing draft too. And that's the one that will be more fine-tuned, because that's gonna end up being what goes to the Planning and Zoning Commission, to the Assembly, to the Policy Committee.
The public hearing draft represents more reality.
And I know you put it up there, but I guess, what's the timeline for the public hearing draft that you're shooting for?
Probably late summer, realistically.
Any other questions or comments from the committee? All right, hearing none. Do we have any questions or comments on this item from any of the audience today?
So I wasn't really going to comment, because some people
Name for
know,
record.
Ariel O'Gallagher, DOT. But I'm going to, for one thing, the plan doesn't seem to be taking into consideration the MTP work that's being done right now for the 2040 MTP, because the plan looks like it's showing vacation of certain roads, specifically 29th Avenue, whereas the MTP is recommending that's enhanced with non-motorized improvements, bigger sidewalks, bike lanes, that kind of stuff. So that's one thing that needs to be taken into account as this is being looked at, is that the MTP is saying one thing and this plan is saying something else. So we need to kind of work together to get them to make sense. And we're just now going to start hopefully start the modeling, so they'll have maybe a better idea of what the network might possibly look like. So.
I guess related to that, we just had the work session last week on that, and our comments, the TAs, well, everybody's comments on the proposed alternatives are due a week from today, the 19th.
You're reminding the 19th, yes.
Yes, April 19th. So just a reminder to everybody in this room, if you were not at the work session, well, if you were at the work session, if you were not at the work session, hopefully you received those materials and we have our opportunity to comment until April 19th. So, any other comments, questions, or comments? No? All right. And the matter lies with the committee.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I move this get remanded back to the planners until such time that they can actually have agency coordination and get this kind of incorporated before it goes out to the public.
Moved by Mr. Linwood. Is already seconded by Mr. Linwood.
And, you know, the reasoning basically is that I don't want to waste the public's time. Clearly, it sounds like there's some conflicts with the MTP. There's DOT's got concerns, we've got concerns, transit's been quiet. But I think there's enough folks that are just sort of looking at this for the first time and have concerns that we really need to get it cleaned up before we waste the public's time trying to make that available.
So I have a motion and a second. Are there any opposed to the motion?
I would like to say we're going to remand it back, that we, as a body, don't drag out this relook or first look at this document, but set a time frame for ourselves so that we do try to at least get it out maybe in late May or early June out to the public, and not in the middle of July where we know a lot of us are out fishing and stuff. So maybe set a time frame for ourselves.
I don't know, you know, it's not going to take us, I think, that long to get through it and belay our concerns. The issue is when are the planners available to get back together, have a discussion about what the issues are. And I'm sort of probably leave it up to them as far as what their schedule looks like, and how quickly they can get those put back in. But I agree with you, I'd like to get
unless we get the amendment, June is the end of the contractor's ability to redo any of this. So then I
We're
would
trying to get one anyway.
We're trying, but, you know.
So if they don't get one, does it
Well,
matter?
then it would be up to Joni and Dee to work through the document and
Sure.
make changes, so just take a little longer.
That's fine.
So hopefully we'll get that amendment.
So I have a question. I know we only have the motion on the table. I haven't heard any objections. We're having some discussion. Typical agency review. What is the time, do we know the timing of a typical agency review for a document this size?
3 weeks.
Yeah.
Okay.
I've got the NTP in front of this. I've got commuter rail stuff within next week, but the slide is somewhere.
I was just thinking if this was already planning on going to the agency review next week, I mean, that would really, it does put, I don't know that this would be, the changes and everything would be able to be incorporated before next month's TAC in May. But it does, hopefully, I would think that it should be able to by June. I mean, the changes and everything that it would come back in June, but then it does put it a big public release in June. So, just something to consider. So,
Well, do we know, do all community councils take off in the summer? Is that a universal thing or just particular, I'm thinking Turnagain Community Council is gonna be interested in this. I know they're fairly active. I don't know for a fact that they all take off the whole time. Do you?
I don't know. It
Most
is-
of them take at least July and August off.
Yeah.
Government Hill doesn't seem to ever take off.
No, there you go.
Maybe, literally, but in the background, they're all.
Have such an active neighborhood.
And this is related but not related, just because I'm wondering, I'm looking at, this is a pretty hefty document, like I said, it is hefty, and I want to be able to dig through it being 150 pages that it is. And then I was sitting there thinking to myself, man, I remember when I was having to dig through the MTP as well. How long is the review generally for the MTP and the public hearing draft of the MTP?
Well, the public hearing draft of the MTP, when you do the public process, we're anticipating January of 2019 is when we start the public review, and we're hoping to have approval by November of 2019.
Yeah.
So it's a lengthy review process.
Yeah, well, this will be
There's a
too.
lot
I
more
mean,
that
this
goes
is
into
just
that.
public, I mean, this is public review, then there is public hearing, it goes to P&Z, it goes to the assembly, it goes, I mean, this is not something that if we opened it for 45 days, that it's gonna be approved at the end of 45 days. I mean, that's not the expectation.
No.
When you do those reviews, I just wondered like what that first review time is for the MTP. Is it usually 30 days or is it 45?
I think it's usually 30, but
Yeah.
it could be 45. I mean, we have it up to 4 years.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I was just asking, because I forget last time, like how long.
30 is the minimum.
Yeah, I thought so, 30 is the minimum, okay, generally.
Well, just kind of go on record for the board, obviously, it's not in our neighborhood, but, and our concern is for our customers who are trying to move freight, because wherever they might be moving it, even, the only main freight corridors going to Northern Lights and Minnesota, those are gonna be the main places where trucks go now, and they don't seem to be, most of this is not changing those items, we're just glancing through it. So,
Well, actually,
Yes,
a
I-
couple of their ideas do affect Minnesota.
They do, and that's the concern, is there seem to be a number of things in here that are contrary with existing plans that are out there, ones that are being worked.
so where I was going with that is Trade Advisory Committee is also, you see this, yes, no, maybe so.
Well, if it's released to the public,
All committees will.
all committees will get it. I mean, yeah,
I mean,
But-
formally give it,
yes,
not just, hey, by the way, trade, look at it, it's out there.
I don't know.
Should there be a stakeholder group that?
They will get notice of it. I don't know when the next Freight Advisory Committee meeting is scheduled.
May 9th.
So we can put that on the calendar.
But if right now the motion before us is to actually not release this, so it won't be public.
Right, I guess when I'm
But they can
saying,
get it
If we remand it back to stakeholders and they're a stakeholder, then
Yeah,
they'll be directly engaged versus passively engaged.
yeah. Any other discussion? Would you mind reading back what his motion was?
Move to remand back to planners to have agency coordination.
Moved by Mr. Lindsay, second by Mr. Van Hoen. Are there any opposed?
There's a couple.
What about setting some sort of time for this?
They're correct.
That just is,
I think that's
open-ended.
Well, I guess that's a question for the person who made the motion. Do you want to put a timeline on it?
I don't have any issues.
Staff.
I don't have any issues with putting a timeline on it, so long as whatever the timeline is, there's time for adequate review, and the results of that consultation, whatever they may be, get put back in here, and that feels like honestly 2 months to me. So
could
what's
we
60 days?
Wrap this up by end of May.
Beginning of June.
45 days,
Yeah.
with, including consultation within those 45 days.
I don't want to speak for the meeting as far as how long it'll take them to get those comments included.
I'm trying to help you guys.
Yeah.
Try to keep the schedules on that.
What's the question?
We don't want to have this remand open-ended. We would like to set a time frame that has to be reasonable so that the agencies can give you meaningful input. You address those and then incorporate it into possibly a new version of this for public review. 45 days. That will work. Okay.
So you're looking at more than likely June or July TAC meeting before it comes back to you, based on when we need to post it and how the PI needs to go.
Yes, that's
Just,
Unless we have a special meeting, which you can just come in and do.
Well, I mean, as Jim said, give us 3 weeks to go through this, get our comments pulled together, then I assume we sit down with whoever, go through the laundry list, try to get some sort of resolution. Then, I don't know how long it's gonna take them to get those comments incorporated, because I'm not sure how extensive it'll be. And that's the piece, you know, I can commit to
Reviewing and.
reviewing and get through it in the next 30 to 40 days, give or take, but I don't know how long it's gonna take them between our comments, your comments, DOT's comments, to get them back in there again.
So I'd like to recommend that we have a goal for staff to have a copy of this back to us all for release at the June TAC meeting.
And that means have an agency review 3 weeks, which I heard agencies say
Yeah.
they could do, so.
We'll commit to that, and then it's just a function of setting the meeting up after that.
21 days for agency review, and then that leaves another 4 days or so.
Or if they can incorporate it sooner, maybe we can have a special TAC meeting.
So the question is, do we want to amend the motion to incorporate the timeline or leave the motion as a standing discussion?
Chair, I'd like to offer an amendment to the motion to remand back to the consultant or remand to the planning team with a commitment from, or with agency review to be conducted in 21 days of today,
Well, whenever it's distributed,
tomorrow.
maybe next week, I mean, I
Okay.
thought it was just whatever, yeah, but, yeah.
And, right, and comments back to the planning committee. And I understand the planning committee, if comments will be submitted by the agencies to the back to the planning in 21 days from distribution. Get that?
I'm sure.
I have a question before we continue. Do you also intend to include some kind of like get-together for all the agencies to talk through maybe some of their issues? Because it's one thing, like, for example, on the memo that was sent, you know, the very first draft version, the memo kind of outlining, DOT had 8 pages of comments. And when you look at this draft, there's questions how many of those were actually addressed. So would we be able to have some kind of agency meeting to sit down and talk about what's feasible, what people are okay with?
Of course, but I don't think that needs to be in the motion.
Well, I think there needs to be, if we're gonna say we're gonna review it in 21 days, then say.
Communication of the
I'd
comments.
say usually, I'd say for PM&E projects, or for most projects, when we have a round of reviews, within a week or so after getting the comments, we have the review meeting to discuss the comments and the response to comments. So, I mean, it really, I guess the motion, if we're committing to submitting comments, we should also say we want to have an adjudication meeting.
Okay, so we still, I don't have a second yet, so I'm.
Second.
Okay.
Procedure. Well, to the amendment. So you were making your friendly amendment.
Right, so the friendly amendment, I will revise my friendly amendment, if the second will accept it, to remand back to the planning committee with commitment from agencies to review within 21 days, have comments in 21 days from distribution, and commitment to participate in an adjudication procedure with planning, so that a public review draft can be prepared in approximately 45 days from distribution to the agency. Thank you. Yes. The second accepts that wording. Okay, so with the vote on the amendment, right?
Yes.
And you're just doing
We
a
can
friendly
make it a
amendment.
friendly amendment.
If it's just a friendly amendment, it just has to be accepted by, do you have any?
We can commit to that.
Okay.
Okay, cool. All right. So, are there any objections to the motion as amended?
The senator had no problem either.
Yeah, he said no.
Okay.
The seconder had no
Sorry.
problem.
Okay.
Yes. Sorry. I made sure. Yes. All right. Then we are so moved, because I'm not going to do all of that.
Second, and we're all in agreement.
Yes. Okay. All right. Next item before us is the general information item 6A, the coordinated human services transportation plan update. And I guess it's changed. Yeah. Okay.
So I'm working with GridWorks. They're a Portland-based firm specializing in planning for people that do not or cannot drive. And they are our contractor for the Coordinated Human Service Transportation Plan. Early March, we had 5 meetings that included leadership, transportation providers, and then, excuse me, some users, and then 2 public open houses. We're getting ready to start drafting a survey for providers so that we can get a better understanding of the resources and the vehicles and the assets that are out and available in the community, who's using what, who's providing what kind of service. And so pulling all of that together to release. Ms. Petco, thank you so much. Shannon is offering up your surveying tool, which actually is a huge cost savings to us. We have a really small budget on this project, so it's really kind of great to be able to use a tool that somebody else is already paying for. So appreciate that offer from Shannon. So also along kind of collecting of information, we still have some data requests that are kind of outstanding with the state civil rights office, trying to find some more information on ADA, sidewalks, curb cuts, things like that, where we sit within the city and our accessibility pieces with them. Finding that we're gathering a lot of the same data from a lot of different plans and really starting to work together as different planning teams and limiting our asks. We know that the GIS team is being kind of bombarded right now with a lot of asks for data, so we're really trying to keep that effort efficient for them and for ourselves. So that's kind of a new thing that we've been doing with this plan. So with the survey, we're going to be able to kind of boil down a little bit farther. We're going to identify some focus groups for our next round of public involvement. There'll probably be 3 of those. And we really heard from our meetings, we need to streamline our goals from the last plan. The last plan had something like, 7 or 8 overarching, very vague goals, and the community and providers and such are really saying 3, 4 max. Like, give us stuff that we can implement. So that is a very different tape from the 2009 plan, but happy to be getting that feedback. So heard you guys loud and clear about agency coordination, and so just want to make sure that you guys recognize that the project team does have agency representation on it, and we will be meeting several times throughout the summer as the consultant starts churning out chapters of the draft and everybody kind of is brought along. And we want to make sure that that has all happened before our public review draft that will come out in early fall. We're not going to do any public involvement during the summer other than some newsletters, email blasts, things like that. So nothing comment-wise, nothing heavy lifting, just because we're cognizant of what's going on in summer. So that's pretty much our update at this point, and happy to answer any questions.
Have you reached out to both DOTs and MOA's ADA coordinators?
Yes. Yes. Yep. Julianne has been responsive and helpful, and Rashad, I always mispronounce his name. So Rashad has been traveling a bit, and so he's going throughout the entire state, and he's been responsive as he's been able to be. So. Any other questions?
Any questions or comments from the public? Thank you, Jamie. And we also have the 2040 Metropolitan Transportation Plan update.
Just real quickly, we did have the work session just recently on the alternatives development. Most of the TAC members were able to be there, all of the policy committee members and a lot of the CAC members. So what I have today is the documents that were passed out there. So if you weren't there, I have documents for you that you can pick up. If anyone in the public wants them too, I have some more. And that's about all I got for that.
And just, once again, our comments are due by the 19th. So, I'll keep hammering that home, that way we get it back here. What?
11 by the 21st.
By the 21st. I need to block out a day. I need to block out time. Are there any questions or comments on that? Any questions or comments? Any questions or comments from the audience? Okay. Are there any committee comments for the good of the order? Sure. I was kidding. Did it bring some up? No. It was a dark and stormy night. No, I'm kidding. Yes, Mr. Randall?
Yeah, just a quick reminder for those interested, our 2018 to 21 STIP has been signed by the Department Commissioner and is headed over to FHWA. It should be approved with a little luck between the middle of this week and the beginning of
How many comments did you get?
Well, I don't have the exact count because they all went to headquarters, but I did at Central Region, our District 1 to the most. Mainly the Matsu area. But yeah.
Really?
Yes. Matsu's unhappy with it.
Okay. I know.
They didn't limit their comments to just submitting it, STIP committee.
They wrote it on a wall somewhere.
Interesting. Any other committee comments?
Gravel trains start here in a week or two, blocking a crossing near you when you want to be there. Plan your routes accordingly.
The Dowling extension is wonderful for that backup across C Street, can I just say?
Yeah, well, you can thank Mr. Robinson for that.
I know.
And passenger trains are starting up 32 days from now. So what isn't blocked by gravel trains will be blocked more frequently by shorter, faster trains that don't stop.
that's just a reminder that, oh yeah, my husband messaged me today to tell me it's officially spring because he heard his first seagull today. We heard them loud and clear when we were down in Seward last weekend because we went and played tourist and did whale watching here before it gets to the tourist season, but they've officially made it to Anchorage, so be prepared for mine, yeah.
And we do have a substantive comment. And it's related to DOT, and we met with the project team today that is continuing last year's work on the AC crossing, the bridge crossing that, and part of the work that they weren't able to get to last year was closure of the northbound ramp down into the port. So where you're crossing, towards Government Hill, and then you veer off to go to the port, that's going to be closed for 2 weeks, which is going to be quite interesting. But today we were able to sort out that they can start. Target date to start is actually April 30th, because their work won't really be affected by load limits. So we're trying to get that 2-week closure out of the way prior to the first cruise ship docking, which is docking May 14th, so that we don't have a bunch of cruise ship passengers going through detours to get to and from what they're doing. So that hopefully that's a nice commitment from the contractor from DOT to get that out of the way first thing, and we'll coordinate with the trucking community accordingly.
Thank you. Oh, I guess one other, Jerry's not here. Next Thursday, actually the 19th, but next Thursday afternoon, I don't know exactly what time, I can pull up my calendar very quickly. The construction, yeah, 2 o'clock, the construction coordination meeting that has MOA, DOT, and all the utilities, and talks about what projects are going to be occurring this summer. And it's actually going to be quite a sporty summer. So be prepared for lots of resurfacing
It's a
and.
good summer to stay home.
Yeah.
We're leaving.
Yeah. Well, it depends on where you're leaving, because there's a lot of stuff going on both north and south of town, so be prepared, we'll just say that. Any other committee comments?
Check navigator before you leave.
Yeah, exactly. Are there any public comments at this time? All right. Hearing none, thank you everybody for being here. This meeting is adjourned.